Thank you for this interview for ESPN. First of all, what are your feelings right now here in Monterrey as a Niner ambassador, not only for Monterrey, for all Mexico?
It's very exciting. The 49ers do such a good job of extending to the international markets. So being in Monterrey and being able to be with the 49er fans here, it's an amazing fan base down in Mexico. And so to be able to, I'm looking forward to going out there, sitting, watching the game with them, cheering with them, talking with them. It's really fun to be here.
Joe, how do you feel about the way the Mexican fans feel football here?
I love it. I love it. I've been lucky enough to play three international NFL games in Mexico, two in Mexico City, one in Guadalajara, and each time the fan base is so enthusiastic. And to see a stadium 103,000 full, we don't have stadiums that big in the United States. So to see something that big, see fans come out and be so enthusiastic about the American sport is really fun. It's fun to see.
Joe, do you think that the biggest international fan base belongs to Mexico in NFL?
I'm sorry, say it one more time.
The biggest international fan base in NFL. You know, like right now the NFL has games in England, in Germany. We don't have a game this season, but do you think that the biggest fan base, talking about international fans, it belongs to Mexico?
I have seen the fan base in England, in the UK, and I've seen the fan base in Mexico City. And I'll say this: it's tough to say that one fan base is more enthusiastic, but I think there's more numbers in Mexico. I feel like there's a lot more faithful in Mexico, and really to see the enthusiasm from the fans here, having played some football games here, it's a pretty amazing fan base in Mexico.
Joe, last year, more than 80,000 fans at the Azteca Stadium in the game, Niners against the Cardinals. Do you think that the Mexico games need to return? Do you think that NFL belongs to Azteca Stadium?
I do. I think it's become something that is every year. The NFL is doing a great job of expanding to those markets. The partnership with Mexico, I think, is very important. It's the fan base is the faithful. I mean, they show up. I'm looking forward to seeing it at the watch party this afternoon, seeing all the fans show up for this game. It's going to be exciting. But I think it's very important that the NFL maintains a partnership with Mexico. It's a very important fan base.
Joe, your thoughts about Brock Purdy now? What do you feel about Brock during this season?
He's so young. He's such it's only his second year playing football, and he's doing so well. And so the expectations on him are so high, but only because he's performed at such a high level. It's fun to watch him. It might sound a little different to say, but the adversity that he experienced this year in the 3 losses that the 49ers had, I think was very, very important for him. He hadn't experienced any adversity up until then, other than his arm in the NFC Championship game last year. But so to see a young player work through adversity, I think is very important for them. And he's done that, and I think he's playing his best football right now.
Joe, do you think that the Niners will win the Super Bowl soon with Brock? He has great numbers now, but also come on the team with McCaffrey. It's a good team. So do you feel that Super Bowl might come soon too?
I think this team is going to go as far as they will take themselves. As a player, to sit here and talk about winning a Super Bowl before it's happened, I think that's bad luck. But I'll say this, I think the 49ers are the most talented team and the most disciplined team. They've got the smartest head coach, and it shows. And so I think they've got the best shot of making it this year than they have in a long time.
Now your thoughts, what do you think about Alfredo Gutierrez, the Mexican OL in NFL?
I think it's great. Anytime an international player can experience what life is like inside an NFL locker room, The fact that the NFL has the international program to bring the players in, I think it's great. It's helped a lot. I've seen some players from Mexico, some players from the UK actually come in and be successful. So I root for it. I think it's a great program and it should continue.
What does Alfredo needs to make to do, Joe, to compete for a spot in the roster with the Niners?
Just like any young player, I think he should watch the veteran players, ask lots of questions. When I was a young player, I would ask, what have you done to stay in the professional and in the NFL for so long? What is it that you're doing that's different from other people? And so I would wish him to be able to ask those teammates, ask questions. What can I do better? Because I think any teammate on that team is going to want to help their fellow player. So I would wish him just to ask questions, be open, always be learning. Because I think if you're not getting better every day in the National Football League, somebody's going to end up taking your job. So that's what I wish. I just wish for him to keep learning.
Joe, you already talked about the Mexican players you have seen in the NFL, also some British players. What does the international player needs to do, or in this case, the Mexican player needs to do to compete against the American athletes in NFL?
I think if you are an athletic and talented player and you have the skill set to play at the professional level, out here in Mexico, it's much more difficult, right? Because the American football is not as big in Mexico as it is in the United States. So it is a little more difficult to try to get to the professional level. But that's where the international program comes together, because it gives the best players here an opportunity to come to the United States, see what it's like in an NFL locker room, what it's like on an NFL practice field, and see how difficult it really is, and the details, the small details that it takes to become a professional and then to stay a professional. It's a little more difficult here, but the NFL is doing a great job reaching out to those international players and getting them a chance.
Joe, what's your biggest NFL experience in your career as a player back in the day?
I never got a chance to play in a Super Bowl. I played in the playoffs when I was with the Tennessee Titans, and unfortunately when I was with the San Francisco 49ers, we never got to play in the postseason. So playing in the international games at Estadio Azteca, at Wembley Stadium in London, the atmosphere there is as close to, I think, what I would consider a Super Bowl as you can get. The enthusiasm from the crowd, the fact that we get to travel internationally to play our sport, that was such a gift to me and such an amazing experience. Every single time that we did that, I came back feeling just so appreciative of what I get to do for a living. So all those international games, I think, were probably some of my favorite times playing football.
We have seen, for example, in the past years, the Super Bowl, these expensive prices to get a ticket, to get a spot at the tribune. You already talked about the atmosphere in Azteca Stadium. Do you feel that the Mexican atmosphere, the Mexican crowd at Azteca will be better to cheer as the atmosphere in a Super Bowl, Joe?
I think what I remember, and it's funny, the American football, there are so many rules. It's a very complicated sport to learn if you didn't grow up in the United States and you didn't grow up knowing American football. So the enthusiasm, I remember the crowd being so excited to have American football. However, there were some times during the game where there would be a call or a scenario where you could tell an American crowd would react a little differently, but the enthusiasm from the Mexican crowd, it can't be matched by the American crowd. The knowledge of the game and the home crowd versus the away crowd and all those things that occur in a game, it was a little different. It was more of a party. And so I'd like to see, in the future, I'd love to see more of a hometown crowd, more scenarios where the crowd is into it, whether they're booing, whether they're cheering, whatever the scenario is. That, I think, is the next step between the international games and the domestic games.
Joe, just a quick message. If you could give a message to these Mexican kids that dream to play someday in high school, play football, of course, play in college, or play professionally at NFL or here in Mexico?
Yeah. Well, whatever it is, for the kids out there, if you love what you're doing, I think that's the most important thing. I see so many people pushing so hard and playing sports too much where they get burned out. And so the joy of the sport, to me, is the most important. So what I would wish for the kids is to learn the sport, enjoy the sport, have fun playing the sport. And then who knows? As you get older, if it happens, it happens. But sports should be enjoyed. It should be something that everybody comes together for. And I think the youth, the kids are just they're most important part of it. So as long as they keep smiling, having fun playing, I think that's the most important thing.
Just your final message, Joe, for the Mexican fans, because we have fans here that support Steelers, Cowboys, Pats, now Chiefs. But I believe that the Niners are kind of on the top right now with Brock Purdy and McCaffrey. Just your invitation for the fans.
It's a really good time to be a 49er fan. It's a really good time to be a 49er. The team is playing really well. I'm so honored to be here to represent the team and to go to Foliati and to spend time with the fans. I think it's wonderful, and I appreciate being here. It's been so much fun to meet everybody, and I look forward to being back again.
Thanks, Joe.
Pleasure.